Hi, everybody. Hello from Houston, Texas, and Blue Willow Bookshop. I am Kathy Berner, the event coordinator at the shop and the romance evangelist at the shop, too. I have the great pleasure of leading the romance book club that meets every quarter. And tonight, we are hosting this virtual event with Uzma Jalaluddin and Marissa Stapley discussing their book, Three Holidays and a Wedding, that the bookstore romance club read earlier this month. It was great. We loved it. And I see a lot of familiar names in the chat, and I'm happy y'all are here. I'm so excited for this. Please join me in welcoming Uzma and Marissa to the screen.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, thank you so much for having us.
I'm so glad to get to speak with you both. I told you a little bit backstage, but our book club just adored this book. And like I said, I can't keep it on the shelf because anytime anyone comes in who's like, I'm looking for a good holiday book, I'm just like, here.
Amazing.
And yay,
So
Penguin Random House for getting them out the door constantly when we keep reordering. So we're very grateful to our colleagues over at Penguin Random House for arranging this event and for supporting us in that way. Like I said, we adored this book. Someone called it a Hallmark movie of a book. And was that the tone you were originally striking that you were aiming for?
Yeah, I think so. We wanted to write something that was a feel good holiday movie that, would just make all our readers feel so much joy, but also including, that striking that balance of having like multiple different perspectives and not just about Christmas.
And that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we definitely had a film in mind. I think the original idea that Uzma, because it was Uzma's original idea, was really to be a movie. We very much still hope that will happen. And, but I think also having been raised in a Christian Jewish family and Uzma being Muslim, the representation in Hallmark movies is not exactly well, it's getting better, but
Getting better.
not there. So I think that we had that in our heads for sure.
So you mentioned the representation. Let's start off the bat with that. It is so seamlessly interwoven. My college roommate was Jewish, so I was familiar with a lot of the Jewish culture, especially around this holiday of Hanukkah. I was not as familiar, Uzma, with the Muslim holiday. The food. Like, I want all the food. and the clothes. I had the best time going down the rabbit hole of all the beautiful garments, and just I could immediately see it in my head.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So actually, let's start at the beginning. Marissa, you said it's Uzma's idea. How did y'all come together to start writing this?
Yeah, you want to tell the story, Marissa?
So Uzma and I have both had some film and TV development options with our various books, which is we're always very excited about. And the interesting sort of insider baseball thing about these options is you often can't talk about them with anyone. So your book might be optioned by, well, now you've been able to say Mindy Kaling has optioned 2 of your books now, I think. 2?
Well, 1, yeah.
1. Okay. Well, and my book is in one of my books is in development with Hello Sunshine, but a lot of the time you just start keeping it under your hat. So we both kind of knew about these things about each other, and we had a little phone call where we were able to tell each other things that we couldn't tell anyone else. And then at the end of that call, we both confided that we'd love to write a screenplay. And Isma said, I have this great idea. Did you know that every 33 years or so, Christmas, Hanukkah, and Eid all fall at the same time? And I have this idea for this multi-faith rom-com. I don't know quite the plot. And that was where I kind of came in. I was like, I know the plot. Like there immediately I couldn't stop thinking about it. So that's where the seed was planted. And I think several months later, I called Uzma up and just said, I think we should write a book. I think I really shocked her. But she still said yes. And regrets it.
Yeah, I said I need a couple weeks to think about it because I'm in my day job. I'm a high school English teacher, And so I was right in the middle of like a stack of essays and finishing a draft of another book that was due to my editor. And I was like, okay, there's too many things happening at the same time. But no, I just had a log line, and I had a title, which, originally was Happy, Merry Eid Mubarak. And it was really just out of this sense of wanting to see something that was, as much as I love the holidays, and even though I don't celebrate and I love holiday movies, I wanted to see something that really represented, like a plethora of holidays, not just one, because as an observant Muslim who's always celebrated Ramadan and Eid, I know how joyful and fun and like kind of quirky, like we have our quirky traditions too. And I think it would be really fun for readers to see some of those.
Yes. And it was so fun for us to see those. It's told in two voices, Miriam and Anna's. Did one of you write one and one of you write the other? Okay,
Yeah.
so you're nodding. So if you did that, side characters appear in both Miriam's point of view and Anna's point of view. How do you have that consistent? I mean, their voices were consistent too. How did you do that?
Yeah, I think it's, like with any book, you have multiple drafts. And while I think our first draft was like, okay, I want to write a Mariam chapter, and this is going to include all of the characters that I've created in my head. But of course, because it's a dual point of view, but Anna is going to appear, and a Chase is going to appear, and like various characters are obviously going to kind of dip in and out of each other's pages. And then as we rolled into our second draft and our third draft, and we became really comfortable with each other as writers, I think we felt like we trusted each other and respected each other enough to just be able to like try to capture the voices. And of course, because we were writing on a Google Doc, which I think a lot of co-authors do, we were in and out of each other. We were reading each other's work. So, Marissa would read my chapter and like make some tweaks, and I would read her chapter and make some tweaks. And we were just, it was very collaborative, essentially, even though we were like responsible for 50% each. Really, I think, I would say it was much more than that. We were each kind of responsible for like 75%. And that's how you write a book together.
Absolutely. And I think at the beginning too, we had our character sketches, and we got to know those characters. That's one of the things I loved so much about the book, is I learned a lot. And I really felt like, particularly Dadu, like he became so real to me. And when we talk about if we'll write together again in the future, he is like he has to come back. We love him. And
Yes.
we
Like favorite character.
Yeah.
Yes.
When he's on the movie set and he's just like totally made himself comfortable and he's providing motivation. Oh, but also his very tender moments with Anna to provide that to her. So I loved how he and many of the characters gave us both hilarious moments and very poignant moments as well.
Yeah. We love that too.
So when you were writing, did you have the through line already, and you have the Google Doc and you're dipping in and out of chapters, or were you like, okay, we're doing these chapters, these two chapters, then we're doing these two, then we're doing these two? So was it linear or more varied?
So it was definitely linear. That's, I think, I've co-authored 2 novels before, so I can say the secret, if there is one, is that you really do need to have outlined the total crap out of it before you start.
Right.
And we've talked about this a bit in our interviews too. Of course, things will change and books can take on a life of their own, and characters. But in this case, it does have to be within reason. Like we had the plot, we knew where we were going. There were some changes that happened. And then we approached it in a very linear way. So I tend to be more of an early riser, although as it gets darker, that changes. And Uzma works at night, so often I would be in it in the morning during the day, and then she'd come in after her day job teaching, and I would have written my chapter, she'd read mine, write hers, and it worked out really well that way. So we were constantly moving forward in the first draft. And then I think when we were editing too, right? Like we'd start at the beginning and edit through chapters as well. It was quite linear, and I can write in a very circular way when I'm by myself, which isn't always great. So this was nice.
Yeah, and it was also very intense, right? Like it was over a shorter period of time, so we were both kind of like just really focused on the project at hand. And as Marissa said, like we had a very strong outline.
Mhm.
I would imagine that that would make it a lot, not easier, but a lot more consistent for you to be able to do that. Both of both of the main characters in my reading, Miriam and Anna, neither one of them starts out entirely likable. Like I can see both sides of not enjoying sitting next to each other. Like I would hope that eventually by the end I would have enjoyed sitting next to one of them on the plane, but I can see how that might not have started out well. Um, was that a deliberate choice to make us not like them at first and then grow to like them because then they also don't like each other and then they grow to be really close friends?
We've talked about this before, but as much as our book is a rom-com, I actually think it's more of a book about the different kinds of love, especially friendship. And the one of the beautiful things I think about this book is you as a reader witnessing the friendship between Mariam and Anna. So really, the romance, if you want to call it that, is more like
Oh, it's
more
a friend
about
romance.
it's a
Oh, it
friend romance.
absolutely is.
It's a friend romance, and if we're going through like the typical tropes of like
Hmm. I see where you're
enemies to
going.
lovers or enemies to friends in this case, uh
Yep.
both of the characters have to have this like unlikable quality about themselves. Not I wouldn't even say unlikable, but just a thing about them that they need to work on that maybe they don't really realize. And then by the end of that, they've fixed it because the relationship that they have with each other has kind of allowed them and encouraged them to grow. And I think that was one of the really fun things about it. But I always like writing flawed characters. Who wants to read about someone who's perfect in every
Absolutely.
way?
And I think that's if there are any aspiring authors in it here tonight too, it's so important for your characters to go on a journey. So they have to have something that they need to change. They have to have a character journey. So, if at the beginning it was like, these are two great people who meet and they're going to be best friends, we really wouldn't have a story. So we did have to highlight that. And I think being on a plane, actually, now that I think about it, that is kind of everyone's at their worst. It's very confined and controlled, and everything comes. I mean, it was perfect, right? Everything came out, the good and the bad.
It absolutely did. And I wish there was people, there's rom-coms, there's women's fiction. I wish there was a word other than fiction because everybody, you know, there's a whole debate over what does the word fiction mean even. I wish there was an easy word to just encompass everything, and I haven't found a word that readily comes to mind every time I'm hand selling.
Right. Yeah. No,
Oh,
and there's
yeah.
like 10 words, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing about publishing.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's a bit of a buddy comedy, but also not really. And it's really
Ladies
just,
romance. I don't know.
Well, and it's a family story because just all the that is one of the things that I think a number of the book club members really enjoyed was it was so nuanced and so layered, and there's just so much there if you were looking for it.
We
thank
love
you. Yeah.
And I really love that. Okay, so of all the stores in Snow Falls, what was your favorite store?
Oh my God.
Good question. Oh, I can start. I mean, I am somewhat quirky and I loved June's Cauldron. I mean, I just like really love that kind of thing. So, and I could just picture it. Like there's a store near my house called Happy Soul. It's like a crystal store. And like that's where I was when I found out I won the New or won the New was on the New York Times a couple of years ago. And so I love that. But also the Christmas sweater
I
store.
was gonna say
Yes.
the Christmas sweater store was so funny.
Mm.
I love that they had a Hanukkah sweater ready, and they're like, oh, just take it, have a toque for free. It was really fun. And I also liked the fact that they had such diverse like food because I like food. Everyone loves to read about food, but all the Hakka stores, have a Hakka and Hakka
That was
heaven.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, really like and so Houston is the most diverse city in the United States, and it's an incredible food town. So, I'm pretty confident I could find any of the food that's listed, and I have thought about it. But also, it would be very convenient if it was in a little small town like Snowfalls, where I could just walk back and forth
Right?
from the inn, head over
Agreed.
here and get some hukka, head over here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing. So for both of you, here's a question from Amanda. Tell us one of your favorite characters from the book. I mean, besides Dadu, because
Besides Dadu, oh, okay, because
besides
that would
Dadu.
be my favorite, I think. I kind of like Saima. She's a hot mess, and it's funny because she's a doctor, right? And she's like one of those selfless doctors who is working with Doctors Without Borders. But when she's at home, she's just a pain in the butt with her family. She just dumps all the wedding planning on her older sister, and she's like, "I'm too busy saving the world," and she makes it all about her. And I kind of, I don't know, there was something very lovable about her, even when Mariam was just like had it up to here with her sister. That touching scene when they kind of reconcile at the very end of the book.
Yeah.
It came from a place where I think we all with our families behave differently at home than we do out the face that we put outside. And it's important for me to write about, especially because I'm writing about marginalized, racialized characters who, they're the children of Indian immigrants, just like I am. But they're not perfect. They're not like these epitomes. They're just like they drive their family crazy just like everybody else does. So I think Saima was really fun.
I liked her too. I will admit I kind of had the hots for Scythe. I'm like, some of the descriptions, I'm like, really? Like, I never thought. I keep thinking about his black track pants, and I'm like, yeah, like it's working for me. But like, funny thing, like a great guy. Like you could chat with him, and if I loved someone the way that Anna comes to love Mariam. Like I'm good with the fact that this is who she's going to end up with, which is important because I'm really a tough customer when it comes to my friends' partners. So.
And let's
Yeah.
just be eternally grateful that Anna did not end up with Nicholas Vandergray. Oh,
No,
like the worst.
I know.
Like and I loved how like from the beginning you were like, no.
With the
You could
bells in the morning.
Yeah.
The way he told her she had morning breath. I know. I was.
Oh my God, I know. And the way he kept repeating perfect.
Yeah.
oh,
So funny.
it's just cringeworthy. But excellently done because he made me cringe so much. Here's one from Aya. Did this collaboration make either one of you interested in doing more? I mean, Marissa, we know you've done some in the past, but either together or with other authors?
Yeah. Like, well, Uzma, I think you do want to answer that. I mean, I think we do. But
Yeah, we hope to work together again. And I think we were always like, okay, it has to be because this idea was really, I think, special. It's very interesting. It was an interesting twist on multi-faith holiday rom-coms, which I think are hopefully just starting to become very popular. I feel like we're one of the canaries in the coal mine right now.
Yeah. And let me tell you,
But I think they, especially as we live in an increasingly in a world that is increasingly coming to recognize all the different holidays. I like that. But yeah, it was a great experience to work with Marissa. I never actually thought that I would ever collaborate with anyone. I think that's why I was like, oh, you want to collaborate on a book with me? I never even thought of myself as, because writing a book is such a intrinsically isolating process, and you're in your head so much. But yeah, it went great. It was such a smooth process in so many ways, and I learned so much about myself as a writer, and also it was fun to kind of compare notes with another professional writer. So I'm open to it.
yeah, we feel.
Sorry.
We've been doing a lot of
Recovering from a cold, so I'm just gonna cough for a second.
Yeah, we both. I think we both have a lot happening, right? So it's always a matter of finding time.
right.
But I think the process really was pleasant, and also the process of promoting it and getting to talk about this book. And what it means, as you said, every time I write a holiday rom-com, I think, okay, but Christmas is not the only holiday, and it feels a bit.
No.
And I know that personally, so we would love to. But yeah, we're sort of hashing out the idea beyond like Dadu is there. I think we're kind of onto something, and he's actually helping to anchor it.
I think that's awesome. And Snowfalls is a film town, so maybe, Dadu comes back for one more hurrah, and please,
It might be
please give me more.
we need more of him on a film set. Absolutely. Like that's yeah. So the answer is that we will try our hardest to make that happen.
Well, I hope so. And, we will be sure to badger your publishers and tell them that they should do another one. They should ask you to do another one. Here's a question from Brittany. Do either of you have a favorite relationship within the book? And given that we've already discussed that there's friendships and familiar relationships as well as romantic relationships, we're not narrowing this to specifically romantic relationships. Although if one of those is your favorite, that's great.
Yeah, I
How
mean,
about you, Marissa?
I did connect with the friendship a lot. While we were writing, now while we're talking about it, I think we appreciated too the way readers connected it with and noticed that, because romance is great and romance is fun, but in the modern world, not only are we realizing there's more diversity, but we're also realizing that to have a well-rounded, balanced life, you have to have all different kinds of healthy relationships, and that includes a friendship. So a really great romance, I think, has healthy friendships built in, so you actually know the romance can be sustainable, really.
Yeah, agreed. I really enjoyed writing that friendship. I also really did enjoy writing, like I enjoyed reading the romance between Anna and Chase, and I also really enjoyed writing sort of Mariam had a childhood crush on Saif, and then they kind of lost touch, but she always still had this like tender feeling for him, and he kind of I enjoyed writing about someone who had never considered Saif had never considered Mariam romantically before, and all of a sudden he saw her in a different way. And so that was really fun to write about too. So I think that's probably one of my favorite relationships.
And one of the funniest moments is when they're on the plane and Miriam is confessing, and you're just like, no, 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 don't do it.
Yeah.
I know. I actually love that moment, and he's there. And the moment I can picture it when he says something to Anna, and the reader knows, and then she's like, "No, this has happened."
And
he was so charming about it.
Yeah, he was, and she kind of called like Mariam. I like that she, even though she had a crush on him, she didn't want him to like feel sorry for her or to be like stuck up about it, and she called him on that. So I really like that. I think Mariam, based on what she'd been through, was just not here for any false statements. She wanted truth. She wanted authenticity in all of her relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Here's one. This is a comment from Amanda. Not a question, but I want to say I loved so much learning about the holidays.
Yeah, that's great.
It is. And then here's one from Emma. Uzma and Marissa, how long does your outline process usually take? And how do you know when you're ready to start writing?
Okay.
Well,
take this.
I might be I am the outliner, but I also get very frenetic. So like, how long does an outline take a normal person? It should probably take a couple weeks. How long does it take me? Like a day, 24 hours of like not eating, not sleeping, like just being totally you say it's my superpower, but I don't know, because it's like maybe it is. But then maybe give yourself to that. Like the thing about seeing a story take shape is maybe you just have to sit down and bang it out. Like I don't think there's any magic formula, but you have to be feeling that magic. And you have to know you can't start an outline and then think, I don't actually know how the story is going to end. I'll figure it out later. I would not recommend going into a novel where you can't see your way to the finish.
Yeah. I think this outline took us about a week approximately. Probably if it was up to Marissa, it would have been done faster, but I was a little bit busy during the days. And I'm a slower writer than Marissa is, I think. And for me, I'm in the middle of drafting a book, and I spent about a month outlining. It's a slightly different genre. I'm writing a mystery book.
Ooh.
Yeah, cozy mystery. Yeah, I'm trying my hand at cozies. It'll be out in 2025, hopefully. So yeah, Yeah, it took me about a month to outline it, and that was after I'd been thinking about the idea for like years, for a very long time. It was just kind of percolating for a long time. And I think you know that you're done with the outline. For me, it's when I just can't stare at my outline anymore, and I just can't wait to start writing. In fact, I probably write earlier than I probably should. But every writer is different. You know, your mileage may vary. I know some people who outline to the middle of the book, so they know how to get started and get through to the middle, and then they
Mhm.
don't outline, and then they just kind of wing it until the end. So like whatever works for you, whatever works for you to get words down on paper is your process.
And that may not be, and it's so blurry now. Like it was quite a short deadline, but we may have more outlined more rigorously to the middle, and then waited until we got
Yes.
there, regrouped, and then basically honed the
Owned
outline.
it. Yeah. Yeah. I think we did. You're right. Yeah.
So I say, like, you need to know where you're going, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to have some idea. And I think it is okay to get to the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, I always outline now, but then I don't actually follow my outline. It's more like I have it as a roadmap, but I like to kind of explore, and
Mhm.
my characters will sometimes reveal things to me that I never even thought about, and I'll go off the rails definitely, and then I have to kind of pull myself back. Sometimes I get to the end of a full draft, and then I re-outline again because I'm like, what is working here in this draft and what isn't? It's part of my revision process.
Yeah, that reverse outline is actually a really good tip too. I've done it before, and it's okay if you just want to start writing and maybe write a lean, really not great first draft, and then go back and reverse outline and start fresh.
Yeah, definitely.
And
So
that's
there's
one of the things that I've often heard authors say is it's important to remember that your first draft is not a draft that you're submitting. A lot of writing is rewriting and revising.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. I hate it.
Sorry, I was muted. In my opinion, it was all revising. Yeah, I know.
So do you not, because some authors love the revision process, they don't like the grinding out of the first draft. You prefer, Marissa, the idea process and don't enjoy the second part?
Yes, so really, and I'm well aware of how I know that books are made in the revision process. That's the work. I love that part where you're sitting there and you're typing and you're thinking, or at least maybe I'm thinking, this is so good. I'm so good. I love this. It's such a good decision to become an author, because when I start revising, I'm like, oh, this is not, this does not sound the way I thought it did. And then reality sets in. It's not my favorite, but it's the most rewarding in the end because you get the final draft out of that.
Yeah, and I'm the opposite. I find drafting, my first draft is such a grind. It's such a relief when I come to the end of it. And then I like taking a step back, looking at the big picture, and then figuring out, and then just like plunging back in and ripping out the guts and trying to figure out how to make it better. That's the part that I like.
Do either one of you ever read it out loud in the editorial process?
Yes, actually, I'm on deadline for a book right now, and that's pretty much what I've been doing, and it's incredibly helpful. I read it actually especially the opening, because um I don't do readings as much anymore. I find they're less required, but I would always, like, events don't ask for them, which I think is good. But
Right.
if we are going to do a reading, I'll usually do the opening passage. So I'll act like I'm at a reading, and I
Okay.
think if anybody getting bored, am I getting bored? The opening is so important. So at the very least, I'll read my opening over and over. Once in a while, I might read it to my family and see if they look bored. And when they are actually paying attention, especially as the kids turn into teenagers, I know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, even, do either of y'all watch Ted Lasso?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I love that show.
Okay,
Yeah.
so remember in the last, this is not a spoiler, in the last episode of the series when Trent has handed over his
Yeah.
manuscript to
Yeah.
Beard and to Ted, and
Yeah.
and Ted laughs and he's like, he comes running over and he's like, this is page 43. You didn't laugh until page 43. It's
Yeah. Oh, I've identified with that so much. My husband was laughing too, because he'll read my drafts and then I'll sit there like waiting and sort of be.
so So who is the first person to read your work once you're in the process? Uzma, how about you?
For me, I have a couple of writer friends who will very kindly read my work. So one of my friends is Asma Zahanat Khan. She's a fantastic crime writer. Uh, I'll drop one of her recent book in the chat. Is called Blood Betrayal. Really, really good writer. She's probably my go-to beta reader. I have another friend of mine who's not a writer, but it gives me excellent insight. And she's kind of like my another beta reader. And my husband always reads my books and gives me his opinion, and his opinion actually counts for a lot because he's watched the evolution of my writing and he knows, what I want to do, and if he likes it, it means quite a lot. And but of course, when we were co-writing, I don't think I really had anyone read over because we had each other, right?
Yeah, I think that that is the kind of great thing about collaborating is you have a built-in beta reader.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I'm say pretty much the same as you. I have a few author friends who will be beta readers. My agent generally is a first reader, but my husband is definitely a first reader. And as you said, they've witnessed the evolution. And I think if he likes it, because he's not actually my target audience. So if
Okay.
I can grip him, which I tend to do, then I know that I can get the people who are already in, you know?
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Um, you both mentioned that you're in process for upcoming books. Is there anything that you can tell us about what's upcoming?
You want to describe your cozy mystery first? I'm so
Yeah. So Marissa's kind of at the end of the process, and I guess this is kind of like an interesting study. I'm very much in the beginning. I'm like I just am in the early drafting phase, and I'm about to finish my first draft. I just started it a couple of months ago after outlining it. And my idea is essentially I'm writing a South Asian Miss Marple series. I'm a huge fan of the golden age of detective fiction, and I love Agatha Christie. I grew up reading Agatha Christie. And I was really interested in the idea. Miss Marple's kind of like a frumpy character. I wanted to really update her and make her more modern. But my idea is to have an older South Asian woman, a Desi woman, who is kind of on the cusp of a second act where she has raised her children and now she's wondering what, and she's always been sort of like very domestic, like very much a homemaker, and now she's like wants to be able to explore what her second act is, and her second act is helping the people in her community. And it's set in Toronto. All my books are set in Toronto, and
Right.
I'm really excited about it. It's I don't know what the title is, but yeah, there is murder, so it's not like that cozy. It's cozy adjacent, I would say. I'm really excited about it.
Well, and the thing that makes me think about is as women reach a certain age, they can sometimes become invisible.
Yes.
And I would imagine that would be an incredible strength for her
Yeah.
as she's helping people in her community
Yes,
solve
exactly.
crime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's a lot of conversations about that as well, and also, as someone who was like devoted her life to motherhood, and now her children are grown up, what is the next step for her? Does she finally get some time for herself because she spent most of her life in service to others? And of course, questions that I'm thinking about as I look ahead.
Well, and it's funny because that sort of topic came up for us. Our kids are out of the house. My husband retired February 29th, 2020, right before the world shut down, which was
Oh,
great
wow.
because he would not have enjoyed remote working.
Mm.
But this past year, so I'm still working. He's retired. He has all these great things that he loves to do. But when he's at home, he's like, "You are really busy." I'm like, "Yeah," because I and don't get me wrong, I love being married to him. I love being the mom to Abby and Zach. I love being the daughter to my parents and the sister to my siblings. But to be able to kind of move into your own
Yeah.
is a really empowering time.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. And for a
So
lot of
you
what
have much to look forward
happens.
to.
Yeah, exactly.
So I digressed. Marissa, how about you?
So, and by the way, I'm so excited for Uzma's book.
Thank you.
I know, I'm just kind of all wiggly.
Thank you.
So well, am basically closing in on probably a final draft after I think I'm on my maybe fourth substantive edit with my editors on a novel called The Lightning Bottles, which is coming out next October. With Simon and Schuster. So it's actually so I write the rom-coms with co-authors generally, and on my own holiday rom-coms, and then I have my own novels like Lucky, like just general fiction. So this one is set in the 90s. It's about a rock star couple, alternative kind of grunge couple, kind of like Kurt and Courtney meets the White Stripes. He's gone missing at the height of their dizzying fame. That mid 90s, and is presumed dead. And fast forward, it's 1999, and she's just so sick and tired of being vilified in the media, and people have blamed her for everything. So she takes off and moves to the German countryside because they were very happy when they were touring in Europe. And happens to stumble upon the fact that he might still be alive and leaving clues for her in the form of Banksy-esque street art through all the European cities where they toured. So she goes on a journey. So it's a dual timeline. We see what happened, why they ended up meeting the end that they did, while we see her chasing his ghost. And it's not as much a mystery of whether or not he's alive, but more whether they can come back together after such horrendous events. So,
well, now I'm all wiggly for that.
I know, it sounds amazing. I can't wait to read it.
Okay, so next October, Simon and Schuster.
I have a date too. We just got a pub date. I think it's October. Hold on, I'm going to look at my calendar. October 20. Okay, let's get to the October 21st. October 21st, 2020. No, 2024. October 20th. I'm sorry, I went all the way to 2025.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that is very exciting. And sorry, October 24th. So I'm excited, and
Very cool.
I'm tired.
That's amazing. But still, so Lightning Bottles?
The Lightning Bottle. So that's the name of their band.
Oh, that's a great name.
Thank you.
My gosh. Wow. And Uzma, is yours going to be with Berkeley?
Not
The
sure
Cozy
yet.
Mystery. Oh, you're not sure because you're writing it. You haven't sold it yet.
Yeah. I'm still writing it.
I will just stalk you on social media.
Yeah. Keep an eye on it.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful to both of you for giving us this amazing story. I mean, seriously, we talk a lot at the store. Houston is truly the most diverse city in the country. And one of our goals as booksellers is to represent as the entire population if we can. And this book helps us do that in a really joyful way. And I think that every representation, every person with a life experience deserves to see their life with joy in it. And you have absolutely delivered this. I mean, I told you backstage, I'm going to be selling this one every year.
Awesome.
And people can be like, yes, Kathy, we've bought it. Buy it again. Give it to someone. Buy 7. But it's just, we adore it. And I mean, I think it's becoming the holiday book of my heart. I just loved it.
We love independent. Every author says they love independent booksellers, but we really do. And like,
really do.
Like my heart is like,
thank you for everything that you do. Thank you so much.
So wonderful. Really.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure. And so we've talked about a book that's become the book of my heart. Can you both tell us books that are books of your heart, whether it was a picture book you read as a child, something you've shared with your children, something you read last week? Uzma, let's start with you.
Sure. I read this book a while ago, and I love rom-coms. Sonali Dev is a fantastic author in general.
Yes.
She and I write a lot of my 2 of my books are retellings of Jane Austen classics. And Sonali wrote a book called Recipe for Persuasion, which I think is just outstanding. So it's a retelling of Persuasion. It's set in a South Asian American family, which is really interesting. I think it's the second book in the series, so you can also read the first one. And I also mentioned a friend of mine, Asma Zahana Khan, who writes fantastic crime fiction. Her second book in her series, Blood Betrayal, just came out a couple weeks ago, and it's fantastic.
Excellent.
I'm with
How
you.
about you, Marissa?
So I have my list of books I love, and I feel like everyone in my house knows what my 10 books are. So this year, I think it was in the summer, I read Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano, and I started to really slow down at the end, and I was like, oh my, I loved it so much. And I was sitting outside with my husband on our back deck, and I finished it and I put it down on the table, and I was like, top 5, like, of all time, like this, maybe even top 3. And he was like, wow, really? Like, I loved it so much. It kind of had me at retelling or reimagining of Little Women, or,
Mhm.
it was, but that book just was just so incredibly beautiful. And I'm very into family dramas, and I love the idea of redemption and forgiveness, and everything that book encompassed. I loved it. It really shocks me when people don't love it. Like, I actually think, I'm like, are you sure you didn't? Like, just try again. Really loved it.
It's like that scene in the Barbie movie. You can have this or this, and she picks that, and you're like, nope, try again.
Try again. Yeah, like, maybe just try again. So I loved it. I thought it was really beautiful.
Wonderful. Again, thank you both so much. Thank you to my book club friends who tuned in and watched. It was so much fun to see your names in the chat, and thank you for asking the questions. Marissa and Uzma, if you ever find your way to Houston, you come see us at Blue Willow Bookshop, and we'll show
Definitely.
you the great food and the great welcome that we'll give you to our store. So everybody who joined us, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. This was so
Y'all have a
fun.
great night.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.